They say Vale de Judias was built to keep men inside forever. Not just with its tall, concrete walls topped with razor wire or the motion-detecting floodlights that bathed the prison in a ghostly glow each night. It wasn't even the guards, cold-eyed and brutal, or the layers of locked doors and security checkpoints between you and the outside world. No, it was the hopelessness that kept men inside. I had watched it swallow them whole, men stronger than me, men who swore they'd never break. And I knew, if I let it, it would swallow me too. That's why I decided I was getting out. Before Vale de Judias, I was a ghost. I never stayed in one place too long. Never used the same name twice. If you needed a vault emptied or a museum piece to disappear, I was the man who made it happen. I had rules: no violence, no mess, and no unnecessary risks. That's how I stayed out of places like this. Until someone set me up. The job I got caught for? I never did it. A jewelry store robbery gone wrong, 3 bodies on the floor, security footage placing me at the scene, a murder weapon with my prints on it. It was too clean, too perfect. Someone powerful wanted me buried. I fought the charges. I had an alibi. But the judge, the prosecutor, the cops, they all knew something I didn't. The trial was a formality. 25 years. No parole. That's when I realized the truth. I wasn't in here because I was guilty. I was in here because someone wanted me gone. And if I stayed, one day, they'd make sure I didn't wake up. Vale de Judias, the prison that kills hope. This prison was different from the others I'd been in. There were no gangs running the show, no hidden pockets of power among the inmates. Because there was nothing to run. The only thing that ruled this place was order. The guards held all the power, and they didn't share it. They didn't just watch you. They controlled every movement, every conversation. Cells locked down at 8 p.m. sharp, and if you weren't in yours, you disappeared. No one ever found out where. I spent my first few weeks watching, listening, waiting. Most men here had given up. They walked the yard like ghosts, heads down, voices low. I wasn't like them. I wasn't planning to survive here. I was planning to leave. You don't just break out of Vale de Judias. There are no weak points, no unguarded exits, no loose bricks in the wall. Every inch of this place was designed to keep men inside. But every system has flaws. And the flaw in Vale de Judias wasn't inside the walls. It was outside. The garbage trucks. Twice a week, at 5:30 a.m., a waste disposal truck pulled in through the back gate. It was the only non-prison vehicle allowed past the perimeter. The guards barely checked it. That was my way out. I just needed a plan, a team, and the right distraction. Because getting to that truck? That would be the hard part. Every escape needs 3 things: a way out, a distraction, and the right people. I had my way out. The garbage trucks. Now, I needed the other 2. Vale de Judias ran like a machine, efficient, cold, and nearly impossible to break. But I had been studying it, watching every guard rotation, every checkpoint, every movement inside these walls. And after weeks of careful observation, I found the weak link. Officer Duarte. Duarte wasn't like the other guards. Most of them were stone-faced professionals, ex-military or former cops, the kind of men who followed orders without question. But Duarte? Duarte was lazy. He was always on his phone, taking longer breaks than the others. He leaned too much on the other guards to cover for him. And, most importantly, he was greedy. Every prison has a guard willing to bend the rules for the right price. And Duarte? I just needed to figure out what his price was. Building a crew. I couldn't do this alone. I needed at least 2 more people, one to create a distraction, the other to cover me if things went bad. That's when I found Santiago and Bruno. Santiago was ex-cartel. Smart, careful, and still had connections outside. He was serving life without parole. He had nothing to lose. Bruno was different. A safecracker, like me. A man who had lived his life breaking into places, not out of them. He had been caught trying to rob a bank in Porto, and now he was looking at 15 years in a concrete box. That was enough to make him desperate. When I told them my plan, they both laughed. Then, when they saw I was serious, they listened. One afternoon, during lunch in the yard, I made my move. Duarte was standing near the back fence, checking his phone while the other guards kept an eye on the inmates. I walked up casually, stopping just close enough to talk, but not close enough to raise suspicion. "You've got a kid, right?" I said. Duarte flinched. "What?" I nodded toward his phone. "You check it more than the warden checks the cameras. Let me guess, your kid's in school. Private school." His grip tightened around his radio. "You should walk away." But he didn't tell the other guards. That meant he was listening. "I don't need much, Duarte. Just a favor." One that'll make sure your kid keeps going to that private school. His jaw clenched. But I saw it. The hesitation. The calculation. He didn't say yes. Not yet. But he didn't say no either. And that was a start. Santiago had an idea. If we're gonna make a move, we need chaos. A reason for the guards to focus anywhere but on us. We debated options: a fight, a fire, a staged accident. But none of them were big enough. We needed something that would shake the whole prison, something that would have every guard on edge. Bruno was the one who suggested it. We kill the power. For a high-security prison, losing power, even for a few minutes, was a nightmare scenario. Doors automatically lock. Cell blocks go on emergency lockdown. The outside perimeter freezes. That meant, if we could time it right, all eyes would be inside the prison, not on the garbage truck at the back gate. The problem? The electrical room was locked tighter than the cells. But Santiago had a solution for that too. We don't break into the power room. We make someone else do it for us. We waited until Friday night, the day before the garbage truck made its next run. Santiago had a stolen blade, a shiv made from a melted toothbrush and a sharpened piece of steel. He had used it before. I saw the scars on his knuckles. He didn't hesitate. At exactly 10:42 p.m., while the guards were doing their rounds, Santiago stabbed an inmate. Not deep, just enough to start a war. The scream tore through the cell block. Within seconds, alarms started blaring, guards storming in with batons raised, shoving inmates against the walls. Panic. Screaming. Chaos. But the real moment came when the victim grabbed another inmate and started swinging. That was the moment the riot started. And in the middle of the chaos, Bruno and I slipped toward the maintenance hallway, where the circuit breakers for the power grid were kept. A place only guards could enter. Which is why we weren't going inside. Forcing their hand. In a riot, the guards follow protocols. What are those protocols? Secure the power grid. Within minutes, a guard rushed toward the maintenance hallway, fumbling for his keys, shouting into his radio. And that's when Bruno and I attacked. I grabbed him from behind, locking my arm around his throat, squeezing until his body went limp. Bruno caught the keys before they hit the ground. We dragged him into a storage closet, locking the door behind us. Then Bruno stepped into the electrical room, found the right switches, and yanked them down. The lights flickered once. Then the entire prison plunged into darkness. In the pitch-black prison, alarms wailed, confused shouts filled the air, and I knew this was it. The guards weren't thinking about the garbage truck at the back gate. They were thinking about keeping prisoners from tearing each other apart. And in the shadows, as chaos exploded around us, I turned to Bruno and nodded. Let's go. Because our way out? It was already waiting for us. The darkness swallowed veiled to Judia's hole. Alarms screamed from every direction. I heard the heavy slam of cell doors, the rapid click of guards' radios, and the sharp snap of boots against concrete as officers scrambled to control the riot. No one knew where to focus. And that was exactly what we needed. Bruno and I slipped away from the electrical room, moving fast but steady. We had minutes at best before someone reset the power. If we didn't reach the garbage truck by then, the entire escape was dead. Getting to the back gate wasn't just about moving fast. It was about moving smart. We had memorized every blind spot, every unguarded corridor, but with the prison in full lockdown, nothing was predictable anymore. The halls were alive with movement. 2 guards rushed past us in the dark, muttering into their radios, too distracted to notice 2 shadows slipping through the hallway. Bruno clenched his fists. We're gonna run into more of them. I nodded. Then we do what we have to. Because if it came down to them or us, I wasn't going back to my cell. We made it to the laundry room, a short detour, but necessary. Duarte was waiting for us. I had tested him, bribed him, pushed him. But this was the moment of truth. Duarte stood near the door, his face tight with fear and sweat, a set of guard uniforms folded neatly in his hands. His voice shook. I can't do this. It's too much. Bruno stepped forward, his eyes burning. We're past that. Give us the uniforms. Duarte hesitated too long. He reached for his radio. I didn't think. I grabbed the knife from my sleeve and drove it into his stomach. His body jerked, a sharp breath escaping his lips. His fingers clawed at my shirt, eyes wide, mouth opening like he wanted to scream. Then he collapsed. Blood pooled beneath him. For a second, I just stared down at him, watching the life drain from his eyes. Bruno exhaled. You hesitated. I wiped the knife clean. Not long enough. We grabbed the guard uniforms, pulled them on, and left Duarte bleeding out on the cold floor. There was no turning back now. The only way to the back gate was through the main courtyard. Even in the darkness, I could see figures moving in the yard, inmates fighting, running, breaking apart in the chaos. Then I spotted them, the riot squad. 5 guards in full tactical gear, shields raised, batons gripped tight. Moving slow, methodical, clearing the yard one inmate at a time. They hadn't noticed us yet. Bruno leaned in. We walked straight through. No hesitation. I adjusted the uniform. You sure? His jaw tightened. If we run, we're dead. So we walked. Straight into the wolves. We kept our heads down, moving fast but not too fast, just 2 guards trying to restore order. One of the riot squad officers turned to us, visor reflecting the glow of emergency lights. Who ordered the power cut? He barked. Bruno didn't break stride. Warden's orders. Full lockdown. We're securing the back gate. The officer hesitated. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. One wrong word, one wrong move, this was it. The officer gave a short nod. Go. They're locking down in 5. We walked past. We didn't speak. Didn't breathe. Not until we reached the back entrance. The garbage truck was there. And it was already moving. The driver was a prison worker paid off weeks ago to stall just long enough for us to jump in. But something was wrong. He wasn't stalling. He was speeding up. Shit. Bruno cursed. I broke into a sprint. The truck rumbled forward, just meters away from the closing back gate. Bruno jumped first, grabbing the metal handle on the back of the truck, pulling himself up onto the ledge above the rear wheels. I pushed harder, feet slamming against the wet pavement, my hands outstretched. And then, a voice behind me. Stop right there. A guard. I heard the click of his safety going off. And I knew, if I stopped, I'd die right there. So I jumped. My fingers caught the edge of the truck, my body slamming against the metal, pain exploding through my ribs. Bruno grabbed my arm, hauling me up just as a gunshot rang out. The bullet tore through my shoulder. I gasped, my grip slipping, pain searing through my entire body, but Bruno held on. I got you. Don't let go. The truck swerved out of the gate, the last sight of Vale de Judias disappearing behind us. We were out, but we weren't free yet. The moment we cleared the Vale de Judias gates, a cold realization hit me. Escaping the prison was just the beginning. The real battle started now. We had planned for the walls, the guards, the cameras. But now? Now we were in the open. And we were bleeding. The garbage truck rumbled down the highway, steady but deliberate, heading toward a prearranged drop-off point. Bruno and I clung to the back, half hidden behind the trash bags. My shoulder burned, the bullet wound pulsing with every bump in the road. Blood soaked through my stolen guard uniform, but there was no time to think about that. The driver was in on the job. Santiago had arranged for him to stall at the checkpoint, let us slip out. But something wasn't right. Bruno nudged me, pointing at the side mirror. The driver was talking into his radio. That wasn't part of the plan. Bruno's jaw tightened. He's selling us out. My mind raced. How long before they boxed us in? A quick glance at the road behind us told me everything I needed to know. Headlights in the distance, moving fast. I gritted my teeth. 5, 10 minutes tops. We had 2 options. Kill the driver and take the truck. Bail and disappear before the roadblocks went up. Neither was great, but one was survivable. We jump. Now. Bruno hesitated. I grabbed his arm. Now. We rolled over the edge. We hit the road hard, rolling over gravel and dirt, my bullet wound screaming in pain. But pain didn't matter. We sprinted for the tree line, disappearing into the dark, thick forest that ran alongside the road. Behind us, the garbage truck skidded to a stop. Shouts. Flashlights. Bruno and I dropped low, pressing into the damp forest floor. I fought to steady my breathing, listening. A voice, gruff, angry, barked into a radio. They bailed. Moving into the woods. Send the dogs. Dogs. Bruno met my eyes. We need distance. Fast. No time to argue. We ran. The Portuguese countryside was ruthless at night. The ground was uneven, thick roots and brambles snatching at our ankles as we moved deeper into the trees. I could hear the search teams behind us, voices barking orders, the sharp crackle of radios. Then the first howl. The dogs were loose. Bruno cursed. We needed diversion. I scanned the forest. We couldn't just keep running, we needed to break the trail. Then I spotted it. A small creek, cutting through the trees. Water. I grabbed Bruno's arm. We follow it downstream. Throw them off. We splashed into the cold water, wading as fast as my wound would allow. The current was weak, but it was enough. enough to mask our scent, enough to confuse the dogs. The howls grew louder, closer, but then hesitation. The dogs had lost our scent. Bruno exhaled, gripping my arm to keep me upright. Not out of this yet. No, not yet. But we had a head start now. We followed the creek for an hour, our bodies freezing, exhaustion gnawing at every step. My shoulder throbbed, but I pushed forward. Then lights ahead. Not flashlights. A farmhouse. Bruno grabbed my sleeve. We need supplies. Bandages, food. He was right. We weren't going to last long like this. But getting caught breaking into a house? That would be the end. We crept closer, keeping to the shadows. The farmhouse was small, isolated, the kind that belonged to an old couple who kept to themselves. No cars in sight. No movement inside. Bruno turned to me. We take what we need and go. In and out. I nodded. We moved quick, quiet, forcing a side window open. Bruno slipped in first, helping me through after. The house was silent. A table sat in the center of the kitchen, half-eaten food still on the plates, like the owners had left in a hurry. Something felt off. Then, the click of a shotgun. We froze. A man stood in the doorway, gray beard, tired eyes, double barrel leveled at my chest. Bruno raised his hand slowly. We don't want trouble. The old man's hands didn't shake. You brought it anyway. My mind raced for options. We couldn't run, too close. We couldn't fight. I could barely stand. Bruno spoke slow, measured. Listen, we just need supplies. Then we'll leave. You'll never see us again. The old man's grip tightened on the shotgun. I know who you are. Bruno stiffened. The man's eyes narrowed. You think I don't have a radio? Your faces are all over the news. They said you killed a guard. I clenched my jaw. Duarte. His body was probably found by now. And the news? They'd make us monsters. Bruno exhaled, slowly. We didn't kill that guard. He tried to sell us out. We did what we had to do. The old man's grip didn't loosen. Outside, far in the distance, sirens wailed. Bruno turned to me, voice low. If he turns us in, we're done. He was right. The old man had to make a choice. Let us go. Or pull that trigger. And in that moment, I knew I had to decide first. The barrel of the shotgun didn't waver. Bruno and I stood frozen in the dim farmhouse kitchen, dripping with cold creek water, blood seeping from my shoulder wound, while the old man sized us up. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. They weren't here yet, but they would be soon. And he knew it. I could see it in his tired, knowing eyes. This wasn't just some farmer who had stumbled onto a bad situation. He had seen men like us before. Fugitives. Desperate men. Men who had nothing left to lose. Bruno spoke first. Slow, steady. We don't want trouble. We just need supplies, and we'll be gone. You don't have to get involved. The old man snorted. I already am. My mind raced. We had seconds, not minutes. If he turned us in, we were finished. If he pulled that trigger, one or both of us were dead. But then, something changed. He lowered the shotgun. Just an inch. Just enough. You got shot. His voice wasn't kind, but it wasn't cruel either. I exhaled. It's nothing. He scoffed. That's a lie. Sit down. I hesitated. Bruno looked at me like I was crazy, but I knew. This was our only chance. We sat. The old man stepped back, eyes flicking toward the window. He was thinking, deciding. Finally, he moved. From a cupboard, he pulled out a bottle of alcohol, a roll of bandages, a needle and thread. Bruno blinked. You're helping us? The old man didn't answer. He just poured the alcohol over my wound. Pain exploded up my arm. I clenched my jaw, forced myself not to make a sound. As he stitched my wound, he finally spoke. My son was locked up in Vale de Judias. He never made it out. A beat of silence. I saw it then. The weight in his eyes. The loss. He wasn't helping us because he wanted to. He was helping us because he saw something in us, something that reminded him of his son. 15 minutes later, we were patched up and back on our feet. The old man handed Bruno a car key. There's a truck in the barn. It's old, but it'll run. I frowned. Why are you doing this? He didn't look at me. Because they never gave my boy a chance. Maybe you deserve one. That was it. No good luck. No farewells. Just a man who had lost everything, helping two men who were about to lose it all. We didn't waste time. We sprinted to the barn, found the rusted pickup truck under a tarp. It was old, paint peeling, but the engine roared to life on the second try. Bruno peeled out onto the dirt road, kicking up dust as we sped away. For a few miles, we thought we had made it. Then, the blue and red lights filled the night sky behind us. Bruno slammed his hands on the steering wheel. Shit. They found us. I looked back. 2 police cars. Maybe more on the way. We were on a narrow road. Trees on both sides. Nowhere to turn off. Bruno floored the gas pedal, but the old truck wasn't built for speed. The first cop car gained on us fast, its sirens howling. I grabbed the gun we had stolen from the prison guard, checking the clip. 2 bullets left. Bruno glanced at me. You got a shot? I rolled down the window, bracing my arm against the door. Pain ripped through my shoulder, but I ignored it. The police car got closer. 30 feet. 20. 15. I aimed. Fired. The bullet shattered the front tire, sending the cop car veering into a ditch. Bruno hooped, slamming the gas. Nice shot, but the second car was still on us. And worse, the road was ending. Ahead, the forest opened into a coastal cliffside. No more road. No more options. Just the open ocean below. Bruno's knuckles turned white on the wheel. What do we do? I looked at the dark waves crashing against the rocks below. Then I looked at Bruno, and I made my decision. We jump. Bruno's eyes went wide. Are you insane? I gritted my teeth. You want to go back? The second police car was closing in, sirens screaming. I locked eyes with him. Drive straight. Full speed. We go over together. Bruno hesitated, for a second too long. Then he nodded. And he floored it. The truck hit the edge of the cliff at 90 kilometers an hour. For a split second, I felt weightless. Then, we were falling. Cold wind ripped past my face. The ocean rushed toward us. Then, impact. The world exploded into cold. I don't remember the next few moments. Just darkness, pain, the feeling of water swallowing me whole. Then air. I surfaced, gasping. The truck was gone, already sinking. Bruno surfaced a few feet away, coughing, but alive. Above us, sirens and flashlights danced along the cliff's edge. But they wouldn't find us. Not tonight. The current was strong, pulling us out to sea. Bruno turned to me, his breath ragged. Now what? I exhaled, staring into the endless dark horizon. Now we disappear. And as we drifted further from the shore, from Vale de Judias, from everything that tried to bury us. For the first time, in a long time, I felt it. Freedom.